Su Mukhya Madhura Divya Girvana Bharati. Sanskrit and all the Indian languages born from it are the most important, the sweetest, and the most sacred of all the languages in the world. But now, are they being subsumed by English? Is the present generation so much under the sway of English in their day-to-day lives and communication that there's a breaking of the bond with our mother tongues, our folk tales, our lullabies and experiences? To discuss this, we have the most eminent literateurs of the country. Mr. Ashok Vajpayee is a Hindi poet critic, translator, editor, and culture activist, and is a major cultural figure of India. With more than 13 books of poetry, 10 of criticism in Hindi, and 4 books on art in English to his credit, he is widely recognized as an outstanding promoter of culture and an innovative institution builder. At present, he is the executive trustee of the Raza Foundation, New Delhi. Madam Nabnita Dev Sen is a major creative writer in India and an academic of international recognition. While her academic work is in English, her creative writing is in Bangla. She has received national and international acclaim, including the Padma Shri, the Sahitya Academy Award, the Bangla Academy Lifetime Achievement Award, and many, many more. She has represented Indian writing at all international fora and was the Radhakrishnan Memorial Lecturer at Oxford University. She is the president of SOI, Women Writers Association of West Bengal. Sampuran Singh Kalra, popularly known by his pen name Gulzar, is an Indian poet, lyricist, and director. He primarily writes in Hindi, Urdu, and has also written in Punjabi and several dialects of Hindi, such as Braj Bhasha, Khari Boli, Haryanvi, and Marwadi. Gulzar Saab was awarded the Padma Bhushan and the Sahitya Academy Award for his contributions to the arts. He has won a number of national film awards and 19 Filmfare Awards. In 2009, he won the Academy Award for Best Original Song for Jai Ho in the film Slumdog Millionaire. The same song won him a Grammy Award for Best Song Written for a Motion Picture, Television, or Other Visual Media. Gulzar Saab's poetry is partly published in 3 compilations, Chand Pukraj Ka, Raat Pashmine Ki, and 15-5-75. His short stories are published in Ravi Par and Dhuan. As a lyricist, Gulzar is best known for his association with music directors Rahul Dev Burman, A.R. Rahman, and Vishal Bharadwaj. He has also worked with other leading Bollywood music directors. Along with lyrics, he has also contributed to many films as script, story, and dialogue writer. Films directed by him have also won numerous awards and have been critically acclaimed. Moderating the session is K. Sachidanandan, who has 23 collections of poetry in 18 languages, including English, Irish, Arabic, French, German, and Italian. His book, While I Write, New and Selected Poems by HarperCollins, came out in 2011. He has won 27 literary awards, including Knighthood of the Order of Merit from the Government of Italy and India-Poland Friendship Medal from the Government of Poland. A film on him, Summer Rain, was released in 2007. Before we begin the discussion, it's an honor for us to launch Gulzar Saab's new book, Hindi for Heart. May I request the dignitaries on the dais to please launch the book, which is being handed to you as we speak. This alphabet book is a tribute to the iconic images, symbols, and signature Indian experiences in verses that are profound, wise, playful, and lyrical. Hindi for Heart, ladies and gentlemen.
Dear panelists and friends, we hopefully are going to have a very stimulating session on the relationship, if tense, between Indian languages and English. In the inaugural session, Nabnita Dev Sen had made a reference to this session, and she had perhaps rightfully objected to the use of the word Bhasha in the context, because Bhasha in the past was used for the Indian languages in relation to Sanskrit and bhashas were considered to be secondary to Sanskrit. So the term is perhaps similar to the term vernacular that the British used, which I don't think any patriotic Indian would like to use today. English has been here. I don't think any of us is against the presence of English in India. We have all been using English for daily discourse. Some of us have been, at least many of us have been teachers of English. And it has been a historical fact. It is a historical fact that English is there. It is our interregional link language, primary interregional link language. It's an international language. It's our language, the language through which we speak to the communities outside India. It is the language of some of the northeastern states. It is the associate official language of India. And it is perhaps the third, we have the third largest English using community in the world after USA and UK. And we are also the third in English publishing. If you look at the number of books that our publishers bring out every year, it happens to be the third in publishing English books. And we have a whole chain of English magazines and journals and newspapers. So it has an undeniable presence in India. And well, there is also a kind of relationship that is perhaps growing between the Indian languages and English. The languages are absorbing English, for good or bad, one has to really discuss. And English is also trying to enter into a dialogue with Indian languages. There are quite a few English writers who use, Indian genres and Indian categories. Like one could go on, like Trotter Nama is a Nama. Alan Seeley has written this famous novel, which is in the Indian tradition, the chronicle tradition. We have also Sthala Puranas like Malgudi Days or Raja Ravu's Kantapura. And we have verse epics like Vikram Seth's Golden Gate. And we have even ghazals like Agha Shahid Ali has been trying to write ghazals in English. So there is an attempt to Indianize English, to make our English culture specific to India, which again is going to be perhaps a point of discussion here. At the same time, there are also many who have been critical of Indian English writing. I would not like to quote any Bhasha writer because you may think that there is a kind of prejudice. But Shashi Deshpande, who writes in English, has made certain pertinent observations in the context. One, that English does not have a long tradition in India. It's just the presence of 2 centuries and no more than that. And secondly, there is no cultural register in English from which writers can draw, making perhaps poetry particularly difficult writing in English because poetry depends so much on the archive of cultural memories. And we are not sure that the poets who write in the language can draw from the kind of large archive that the Indian language writers have. And there is also a tendency perhaps to exoticize India, which happens naturally in English writing, to exoticize, to package India. And there is also a kind of standardization that happens to Indian experience because in some sense, the English writer has to translate from an Indian language because the characters original characters speak Indian languages or even dialects. And these dialectal and linguistic variations are almost impossible to bring into play in the English, in an English work of fiction, for example. So there are problems. At the same time, the presence of English is registered, and it seems inevitable that all of us, in some context or the other, use English, as we are going to use English here, even for this discussion. So the primary question, I think, is one of defining the subject itself. What do we exactly mean when we say, forget the language Bhasha, the word Bhasha, let me use Indian languages. So Indian languages are being subsumed by English. So it can, once, of course, it can mean that English is in some sense absorbing Indian languages. And secondly, English is perhaps taking over. It is taking the place of Indian languages and exercising a kind of hegemony over the many languages in India. Perhaps these are going to be the major points of discussion here. I would like to begin with, of course, first with the women, definitely, and I would like to begin with Navneeta. I would like to ask you, would you like to make a comment on Indian English writing and Indian writing in comparison? Do you think that Indian English writing is being hyped a lot and one becomes a celebrity much more easily by writing in English than in an Indian language? How do you react to such a question?
Thank you, Sachi, for letting me into the session. I am sitting in for two who haven't come, Ramakanta Rath and Ananthamurthy. So, and they're both first-rate writers in their own languages. As you know, Ananthamurthy, I don't have any. Ramakanta is an Oriya writer. I honestly think it's a very, very difficult situation that we are in now. It's a dangerous situation. We are being separated from our children by English. We write in our mother tongues. For me, for example, it was a political choice when I started writing in Bangla. For several writers in Bangla, like Buddhadev Bose, Bishnu De, Amiya Chakrabarti, they were all professors of English language, English literature. But they all wrote in Bangla because they did not want to write in English. And that was, of course, a time of British Raj. When I started to write, it was not British Raj, but it was many, many years ago. And we couldn't think of not writing in your mother tongue. We just couldn't think of it. We couldn't think that we could actually respect ourselves by writing through the language of the British. Because in those days, I was born during the British Raj. We could not think that a borrowed tongue, which is the tongue of the rulers, could be our heart's language. That is how we felt in those days. The times have changed. Those who are writing now are born in a free India. And they're writing in a language which has become a part of, it's an Indian language. Nevertheless, it's a very, very strange situation. If you go back to Salman Rushdie's collection that came out, it was called 50 Years of Indian Literature. We all remember, we are all terribly hurt at that time because those of you who've read it, those of you who have read the introduction and the collection, you'll see it's 50 years of Indian writing in English. There are two editors who did not find, in an extremely arrogant and objectionable introduction, Salman Rushdie had said, since there was nothing worth collecting from the mother tongues, they thought only one story was good enough, which was, of course, Sadat Hasan Manto's. That was the only translated story that he selected, and the rest are written in English, because the Indian experience, today's Indian experience, the modern Indian experience, the contemporary Indian experience, is far better expressed, according to him, through English. What he had done, which he didn't realize, because he said he had gone through all the available translations, did not find any which was worth collecting in this, worth using as a representative piece. So he had one story by Satyajit Ray. He didn't know, Satyajit Ray did not write in English. It was a translation. He had used two translations, But he had acknowledged one because he was not even aware of the material that he was using, that it was not at all written in English, but in Bangla. This was the kind of thing that happens because we have very bad translations. There are not enough translations, they are very poor translations, they are not accessible, they are not available. The books that are there, the few that are there, are not accessible. It used to be like that. In 1997, 1999, I remember I was talking about it, and I also remember this translation thing is so important because otherwise you write in English. Because you want to, and you know, even if you write in English, there is a difference. If you publish in India, then you are traveling economy class. If you are published in abroad, anywhere in USA or UK, then you are traveling first class. There is a definite class difference among where you are published, which readership you are writing for, who is your reader, who is buying the book, and it also dictates what are you going to tell them. Long time ago, a Kannada writer who wrote in English, a very dear friend of many of us, A.K. Ramanujan, had done a beautiful translation of Anantamurthy's Samskara into English. And in that, I think it was 61 or something, very early. And in that he had written an introduction where he mentioned that those who do the translations, I mean, they translate, that he was trying to translate the reader into Kannada. Cultural translation. He said that the way I am trying to translate, the way I will translate. You know what I feel? Those who are writing in English, they've already translated themselves into English. They are presenting a translated thing on a platter. The reader doesn't have to make any effort. No trouble to try to find out what India is. No effort at all. It's a ready-made thing. The language dictates what to say, how to say it, how to express it. The language, you know, all of you are interested in literature, does dictate what to say, how to say. And English does. And as Shashi had said, because the cultural register is different. And what you have inherited through ages, through all the other languages and literatures, the interliterary effects. You know, in India, we have got writing in Bangla, okay, but you know Tulsidas, you know Ghalib, you know so many other writers who have done their stuff in other languages, but you've got it, you know it. So when you are writing, you are not only writing in Bangla, you have already got all these other cultural Indian experiences in you. When you're writing, it's all coming out. I suppose when you're writing in English, it also happens that way if you have access to other languages and if you've read the other literatures. But if you don't know any other language, you have only read things in translation, it wouldn't be the same thing. It would not. It would be a top level. You are only taking the cream out of the surface and not going deeper into the cultural experience. It is different.
Can I come back to you?
Yeah, sure.
Ashokji here. I think I'll pick up the thread from where she left. You know, she spoke about translations. I suddenly remembered, Vikram Seth, when his novel A Suitable Boy was translated into Hindi as Acha Sa Ladka, he said, this is the original. In fact, I was translating from Hindi when I was writing. And this raises the interesting question of bilingualism, by which I mean not only those who write in two languages. There are many people who write in two languages. We had A.K. Ramanujan, We have still Kiran Nagarkar, we had Kamala Das, quite a lot of people who wrote in one Indian language and English. But even those who write only in English, aren't they also, in some sense, bilingual? Aren't they informed by another language? Even I remember I had an interview with Mulkraj Anand when he was alive, long ago. And he told me, I'm a Punjabi writer. I write in English, but I'm a Punjabi writer because I think in Punjabi, I imagine in Punjabi, and then I am translating Punjabi into English. And if you have read Mulkraj, you very well know that his English has a kind of Punjabi flavor. And that could be said about many other writers. Bhavani Bhattacharya has a lot of Bengali. R.K. Narayan has a lot of Tamil in his writing. Raja Rao has a lot of Kannada phrases and usages in his writing. So there is a dialogue happening. So would you like to comment on this, the question of bilingualism and translation and the whole question of the presence of English in the context of the Indian languages that surround it?
Well, recently there was a People's Linguistic Survey of India, conducted by Ganesh Devi and more than 3,000 experts and teachers all around the country. And these reports have been published. They come out with a staggering conclusion that there are more than 700 languages in India. These 700 languages, where the distinction between the language and the dialect has been given away for good, and that there are communities and people who use those languages. Now, I don't think that any single language in this country, be it English or Hindi, can possibly subsume 700 languages, which people actually use in their daily life in the first place. Secondly, I think, India has three pluralities which are critical to its own plurality. One, the linguistic, the other, the religious, and the third, the plurality of custom, costume, cuisine, to make an alliteration of C. And all these three are critical to plurality of India. Now, no language can be allowed, and no language can possibly even attempt to represent this plural reality. So it is good that it's time that we start rejoicing in the plurality of languages. It is time that we start feeling proud of the fact that we have so many languages. It is time that we start treating English as just one of the languages. That's fine. Now that it dominates the scene and how can 5,000 years of cultural memory be resonated in a language which is only 200 years old here? You just cannot. Now, luckily, these writers don't attempt it either. So their literature also performs in times of amnesia, cultural amnesia, memory function. That is, it reminds you of what you have in your tradition. It resonates many of those things. And I don't think that English can ever resonate it. There are very good writers in English, some of them have been mentioned, but there are third-rate writers in English getting hyped up every single day. Now, there are any number of more radical writers, there are any number of more innovative writers, there are more daring writers in many of the Indian languages, including Kannada, which is one of the most innovative languages in this country. So, I do not understand why the phrasing of this debate itself, I think, in some ways, flawed. Now, the point is, but the fact that there is English, the fact that we get lured to it. I was asked this question once in BBC. Why don't you write in English? I said, my English is poor. It's weak. I can't. He said, no, but what do you mean by that? I said, yeah, I mean exactly like that. This lady pushed me further. She said, but don't you want a larger audience? I said, do you think that writers in Kannada or Hindi or Urdu or Tamil have a paucity of audience or readers? That's not true. Just because those figures don't come, it does not mean that you are not being read and things of that kind. Now the point is that So I said, look, I did not spend my childhood in English, and I don't dream in English. So I can't write in English. There was an African writer sitting somewhere in Amsterdam, and he jumped on it. He said, Ashok, now you have told me something which I have always missed. My novels written in English keep a lot of reality of my life outside the novel, because there is no way I can bring that reality into the novel, because that life was not spent, that reality was not apprehended in English in which we write. So you see, there are these issues. And then I think what any language which wants to have an all India presence, including Hindi, for instance, if Hindi in Tamil Nadu does not resonate a bit of Tamil, it has no reason to be Hindi there. If Hindi in Karnataka does not resonate a bit of Kannada, it has no business being in Karnataka. One day there will be people, but still the more important, vital, enduring writing will continue to take place in Indian languages. There are tribals who are now writing and publishing. There are 2,000 books that we think the tribals have no right to write, because their languages have not been scripted. Now there are tribals because they know that writing is an important element of entitlement. That, if you write, you can claim something. So there are 2,000 books in tribal languages, and we seem to be unaware of their existence. So my dear friends, I would say, yes, English is dominant and we will fight it and this, that, and the other, but we must continue to have this deep creative confidence in our languages, which are live and kicking English sometimes in the face.
I just asked one. I'll forget. I just have to one answer for what he said. See, he said something about Indian writing. You see, when we write in Hindi or Malayalam or Bangla, we remain a Bengali writer, Bengali writer, Malayalam writer, Hindi writer. But if you write in English, you are an Indian writer. It's a pan-Indian language, and you go to a shop, bookstore, you'll see Indian novels. They're all written in English. You don't have a thing saying Bengali novels or Hindi translated into those languages. No, it's Indian. Once upon a time, Sanskrit held this place because it was pan-Indian. And now that place of Sanskrit, the Devbhasha, has become English because it's a pan-Indian language. And the worry that I was going to say, as a mother, our children, not my children, I've been a very bad mother, very strong. They're all our children's children, and my next generation, they read English. All my students tell me, Didi, I read out, my children love your stuff. I read them out. Why do you read them out? Why don't they read it? Oh, because they don't read Bangla. They love it, we read them out. This is not a singular thing. I'm sure all of your children do that. So there's no point pretending we're fine, because we're not. The next generation is not reading us. Who are we going to write for? Of course we'll write in this language. And of course the language and the literature are not going to die. But you have to pay some attention to the fact that we are not being read by the new generation. They're reading the cheap English things. Why are they hyped? Because that is what they're relating to. And we have to have good, powerful translations of the modern things. Now, beautiful stuff is being written in the mother tongues by young writers, not translated. Should be translated. They can reach you, but you don't know them. That's all. Thank you. Sorry, Professor.
I just want to add 2 points. One was, you see, the more worrying phenomena is the betrayal of the middle classes of India of their mother tongues. That's a universal phenomena. And that's going to be a very problematic issue because in education all over the place, my grandson, when he was 5-year-old, I was the president of the housing society in which I live. And I was having my morning walk, and there was a group of women coming, ladies coming from that side, and they said, "Oh, वाजपेयी साहब, हम आपसे कुछ कहना चाहते थे." हमने कहा कहिए. मैं सोचा कुछ शिकायत करेंगी कि वो बिल्ली बहुत कबूतर खा रही है या कि पानी नहीं गिर रहा है. They said कि आपका पोता इस सोसाइटी में सबसे अच्छी हिंदी बोलता है. और मैंने कहा बड़ी भी, अपनी मातृभाषा बोलने के लिए एक बच्चे को आजकल बधाई दी जाएगी. I mean, have we come to such a pass? You know, that kind of thing at one level. The whole disturbing issue is the betrayal of the middle classes of their mother tongue. That is the serious cultural issue, and it will become more and more. It is happening across languages. छोटे छोटे गांव में अंग्रेजी माध्यम के स्कूल खुल रहे हैं. The only hope I had that the English taught in these schools will be so bad, is so terrible, that it will never make the mark.
Yeah, well, what you said earlier reminded me of Ngugi Wa Thiong'o, the African writer who started writing in English, giving up English, and going back to his native tongue, saying that, well, I can never express myself completely in English. Maybe there is something in it, a lesson in it for Indian writers too. Now we have Gulzar Saab, because essentially a poet and a practitioner of lyric writing too. So in the context of poetry, Gulzar Saab, how do you look at this whole question? Well, there are a lot of Indian English poets who are doing well by general standards. And because I find that perhaps poetry is even more difficult than fiction to write in. I myself find it very difficult in the sense, as he said, I always say this, you know, my childhood, my experiences, my dreams, all these are in Malayalam, and I find it extremely difficult to write in English, even though maybe I can attempt translating these into English later. So what do you think? Is there an archive of memory on which a poet writing in English can draw? And what do you also think about the ghazals of Agha Shahid Ali and other attempts at writing nazms and ghazals in English?
मैं माफ कीजिएगा, मैं आजमाना चाहता हूं कि मैं अगर भाषा में बात करूं तो आप तक पहुंचती है कि नहीं. इतना ही फर्क है. आप अगर इस भाषा में, अपनी भाषा में बात करें तो बात पहुंचती है, ये जरूरी नहीं है. ये सही है कि अंग्रेजी एक लिंक की ज़बान, एक ताल्लुक़ की ज़बान बन गई है. ये भी सही है कि उसकी मार्केट ज़्यादा है. शायद उसके इकोनॉमिक रीजंस हैं जिसकी वजह से नौकरियां मिल जाती हैं, या एक स्टेटस सिंबल भी बन गया है. लेकिन उसके साथ साथ मुझे अंग्रेज़ी के साथ बिल्कुल कोई बैर नहीं है. मुझे अगर आज न्यूक्लियर स्टडीज़ के लिए जाना हो या नासा में जाके देखना हो तो मैं अंग्रेज़ी की ज़रूरत पड़ेगी. मुझे उसकी यूटिलिटी से बिल्कुल कोई इनकार नहीं है. लेकिन ये कह देना कि वो हमारी ज़बानों को ख़त्म कर रही है या खा जा रही है, मेरा ख्याल है ये सिर्फ एक अर्बन नज़रिया है, ये एक शहरी नज़रिया है जिसमें आपको यूँ महसूस होता है, आप इनसिक्योर महसूस करते हैं, आपको ये महसूस होता है कि शायद ये ज़बान हमें खा जाएगी. ये बिल्कुल नहीं है. लेकिन अंग्रेज़ी अच्छी हिंदुस्तानी भी लिख रहे हैं, इसमें भी कोई शक नहीं है. और ये अंग्रेज़ी वो नहीं है जो कभी क्वींस लैंग्वेज कहलाती थी, या जिस ज़बान में मुल्क राज आनंद लिखते रहे हैं, जिनका आप जिक्र कर रहे हैं कि पंजाबी में सोचते थे और उस अंग्रेज़ी में लिखते थे जो ऑक्सफोर्ड से आई है या कैम्ब्रिज से आई है, या पंडित नेहरू उनकी अंग्रेज़ी, या चौधरी, आरसी चौधरी उनकी ज़बान, वो अमेरिका की अंग्रेज़ी आज अमेरिका की अंग्रेज़ी है. क्वींस लैंग्वेज भी, यूके की ज़बान भी अंग्रेज़ी की वो नहीं रही. और हिंदुस्तानी अंग्रेज़ी बिल्कुल हिंदुस्तानी अंग्रेज़ी है, जहाँ पंजाबी में और बंगला में और उड़िया में और मलयालम में सोच के अंग्रेज़ी लिखी जाती है ना. तो उसकी बुनियाद कहीं ना कहीं आपकी सोच के साथ ताल्लुक़ रखती है कि आप इडियम. अब मैं ओए खाए खसमानो, हाउ विल यू ट्रांसलेट दिस इन इंग्लिश? वो पंजाबी का लहजा है, या बंगला में की दुष्टुमी कोचो तुम्हें, ये बहुत शौक खाने. आप इस लहजे में अंग्रेजी नहीं बोलते, उसमें आप एक दूसरा लहजा अपना लेते हैं। उसमें फर्क जो मुझे महसूस होता है, मैं इतना ज्ञानी तो नहीं हूं आपकी तरह, लेकिन इतना जरूर जानता हूं कि अंग्रेजी को भी शायद उतने ही साल या उतनी ही सदियों की जरूरत होगी मादरी जबान बनने के लिए। वो मादरी जबान नहीं है। जो मादरी जबान का फर्क है, मैं शशि देशपांडे से इस बात से मुत्तफिक हूं और उनसे सहमत हूं जब वो ये कहती हैं कि अंग्रेजी अच्छी है, अंग्रेजी में लिखिए ना, अंग्रेजी में किताबें जरा बिकती ज्यादा हैं, एयरपोर्ट पे जाके देख के बड़ा अच्छा लगता है, लेकिन हिंदी की किताबें बिहार पटना के बुक फेयर में जिस तरह से बिकती हैं, अगर कभी आपने देखा हो तो 5 दिन के फेस्टिवल का टोटल करोड़ों में जाता है और सब हिंदी किताबों का। बंगला में जितने बंगला पढ़ने वाले हैं वो मेरा ख्याल है अंग्रेजी से ज्यादा हैं, आप बेहतर जानती हैं। बंगाली पब्लिशर्स, बंगाली किताबें, बंगाली नॉवेल, बंगाली पूजा अंक बंगाली के जितने निकलते हैं, मेरा ख्याल है उसमें अंग्रेजी का कोई भी नहीं निकलता उस तरह से। और बंगाली जनता या बंगाली अवाम, बंगाली लोगों का अगर हिसाब करें तो मेरा ख्याल है अंग्रेजी से ज्यादा वो बंगला पढ़ते हैं। वही हाल मलयालम में है। ये बड़ी जबानें लाइक मराठी में जिस तरह से जितनी मराठी की किताबें बिकती हैं, मेरा ख्याल है शहर से बाहर निकलिए तो मराठवाड़ा में मराठी ही बिकती है और मराठी ही पढ़ी जाती है। उससे मकसद किसी तरह की धौंस सहने की बात नहीं है। वो जो अशोक जी ने अपने अंग्रेजी में लफ्ज इस्तेमाल किया, उसका मतलब धौंस का है कि उस धौंस में मत आइए। अंग्रेजी बड़ी खूबसूरत जबान है। अंग्रेजी में छपा हुआ किताब पे अपना नाम पढ़ के अच्छा लगता है, जरा बच्चों पे भी रोब पड़ता है, वो अलग बात है, वो अलग बात है। लेकिन ये कि वो हिंदुस्तानी जबान को खा जाएंगे भाई, तो और वो मिडिल क्लास का एक एटीट्यूड जो हमने कहीं से विरासत में ले लिया है या इनहेरिट में कर लिया, वो हमसे छूट नहीं रहा है। वरना ना हमें अंग्रेजी लिखने में शर्म आती है और ना ये कि उसकी वजह से हम शर्मिंदा हों अपनी जबानों की वजह से। मैं फिर वही बात कह रहा हूं कि मेरा कोई बैर अंग्रेजी से नहीं है, लेकिन उसकी वजह से मैं अपनी मादरी जबान से बिल्कुल शर्मिंदा नहीं हूं और ना होना चाहता हूं और ना होऊंगा।
मैं 2 उदाहरण देना चाहता हूं। एक असम साहित्य सभा नाम की संस्था है जो गैर सरकारी संस्था है, पिछले 70 बरस से चल रही है। उसके एक वार्षिक अधिवेशन में मुझे उसका उद्घाटन करने के लिए बुलाया। अब हम धवलकेशियों का यही धंधा रह गया है, उद्घाटन भाषण वगैरह। तो मैं जब पहुंचा वहां तो मैंने अपनी जिंदगी में इतना बड़ा पंडाल नहीं देखा था। हालांकि जिला मजिस्ट्रेट होने के कारण पंडाल रंडाल प्रधानमंत्री इत्यादि के लिए बनाने का मुझे कुछ तो तजुर्बा था। उस पंडाल मैंने जब नवकांत बरुआ से पूछा, जो मेरे बगल में बैठे थे और असमिया के बड़े कवि थे, तो उन्होंने कहा कि ये 1.5 लाख लोगों के लिए बना है, लेकिन 2.5 लाख लोग आ गए। 2.5 लाख लोग एक तहसील के सदर मुकाम में जमा थे, सिर्फ अपनी भाषा के प्रेम के कारण। उस पूरी कार्रवाई में अंग्रेजी के एक लफ्ज का इस्तेमाल नहीं हुआ। मैं हिंदी में बोला और बाकी सारी गतिविधियां जो थी वो असमिया में चलती रही। बीच में एक गलियारा था, उसमें युवा माताएं अपने बच्चों को लेकर आती थी और मंच पर बैठे लेखकों को पहचानवाती थी। तो मैंने पूछा कि ये क्या कर रही हैं? तो नवकांत बरुआ ने बताया कि ये अपने बच्चों को लेखकों को पहचानवा रही हैं, क्योंकि असम में ये विश्वास है कि किसी बच्चे का संस्कार पूरा नहीं हुआ अगर उसने असम साहित्य सभा के एक अधिवेशन में भाग न लिया। मराठी साहित्य सम्मेलन, जो वैसे बड़ा विवादास्पद होता है, लेकिन उसका परभणी नाम की एक जगह है, मैं ससुरे का नाम ही नहीं सुना था, और वो कैसे जाना उसको, खैर पहुंचे तो वो कलेक्टर ने मुझसे कहा कि सर जल्दी चलिए, ग्रंथ दिंडी निकल गई है। अब मुझे पता नहीं था कि ग्रंथ दिंडी क्या होती है। मैं सोचा कि अगर मैं अभी पूछूंगा कि क्या है तो वो मेरा ज्ञान प्रकट हो जाएगा, मुझे उद्घाटन करने बुलाया है, तो मैं चुप रहा। थोड़ी देर में तैयार होके तो देखा कि एक खुली जीप में जुलूस चल रहा है। खुली जीप में नारायण सुर्वे, जो उस समय अध्यक्षता पद ग्रहण करने वाले थे, मराठी के बड़े कवि, और एक बहुत बड़े कवि और निवृत्तमान एक कवि थे, और एक मुझे बैठा दिया गया। अब हमने कोई 1.5 किलोमीटर का रास्ता 2.5 घंटे में तय किया। कामगार यूनियन, वनिता मंडल, फलाना मेडिकल रिप्रेजेंटेटिव एसोसिएशन, बार एसोसिएशन इत्यादि इत्यादि, वो सब लोग आते थे, आरती उतारते थे और पाँव छूते थे। अब हम ब्राह्मणों को तो पाँव छुलाने का अभ्यास है, लेकिन इतना हमने उसको नोटिस नहीं किया। हालांकि अगर यहाँ कोई मराठी भाषी बैठे हो क्षमा करें, महाराष्ट्र में मिठाई अच्छी नहीं बनती, लेकिन वो खानी पड़ती थी, खाते खाते दिमाग खराब। उसमें 35,000 लोग थे शाम के अधिवेशन में, लेकिन उसके पहले नारायण सुर्वे लगभग फूट फूट कर रो रहे थे। तो मैंने कहा ऐसा क्या हुआ? बोले देखो, मैं तो एक अनाथ लेखक हूं, मुझे तो जिंदगी में पता ही नहीं चला कि मेरे माता पिता कौन थे, मैं तो एक घूरे पर पड़ा हुआ पाया गया था। आज हजारों लोगों ने मेरे पैर इसलिए पड़े हैं कि मैं मराठी का कवि हूं। तो हमारे देश में ऐसी भी चीजें हैं, इसलिए मनोबल बनाए रखना चाहिए।
अब आपका समय है, आप कुछ शुड आई स्पीक इन हिंदी और इंग्लिश? आप पूछ सकते हैं सवाल हिंदी में या इंग्लिश में। यू कैन आस्क इन इंग्लिश और इन हिंदी, because I think at least 2 of them are good in Hindi. I know some bad Hindi too, and I think she can also manage. Is there a mic, traveling mic there? Organizers? Any organizer? Yeah. You can take one of these. आप सवाल पूछिए और बताइए किन से, who you are asking.
सबका बहुत धन्यवाद। आप लोगों ने बड़े ऐसी बातें कही जो हमारा आंखें तो खुली और भी मन के दरवाजे भी खुल रहे हैं, खिड़कियां भी खुल रही हैं। विशेष धन्यवाद गुलजार जी का। 18 साल पहले आपसे पटना के बुक फेयर में मिला था, जिसका आपने जिक्र किया, और आज बहुत ही भावुक हो गया हूँ ये सोचकर कि आपसे फिर से मिलने का और बात करने का मौका मिला। उसी दौरान एक पिताजी ने कैसेट दी थी, मैं और मेरा साया, और आपने भूपेन हजारिका के गानों को ट्रांसलेट किया था, और शायद वो ट्रांसलेशन और ऑफ कोर्स आपकी आवाज़ उसमें, लता जी और आपकी आवाज़, भारत में ये 2 आवाज़ हैं जिसको शायद कोई और नहीं कुछ कर सकता। तो भूपेन हजारिका शायद उस वक्त आसाम में जो भाषा का, बंगाली भाषा का जो असर पड़ रहा था, उसके लिए शायद वो बहुत संघर्ष कर रहे थे। आज ये डिबेट चेंज हो गया है।
सवाल क्या है?
हाँ, सवाल ये है कि
ज्यादा समय नहीं, आप
हाँ
सवाल
जी, भूपेन हजारिका का जिक्र अभी तक हुआ नहीं। क्या आप कुछ पर्सपेक्टिव दे सकते हैं कि आपने जो ट्रांसलेशन किया और आज भी आसामी का आपने जिक्र किया ही, आज के दिन में कितना रेलेवेंट है?
देखिए, मैं बात करता हूँ, मैं समझ गया आपका सवाल कि ये कोशिश जहाँ तक अपना अकीदा है, अपनी कन्विक्शन है, वो मेरे यहाँ जारी है। ये किताब जो आज रिलीज की है हमने, हिंदी फॉर हार्ट, हिंदी फॉर हार्ट उन लोगों के लिए है, बड़ों के लिए। ये बच्चों के लिए कायदा नहीं है, ये बड़ों के लिए है कि जैसे, और उसमें ये लाइनें हैं शुरू में ही, देखिए कि ज़बान का सीख लेना किसी वक्त भी ज़रूरत पड़ सकता है, जिस तरह किसी वक्त भी इश्क हो सकता है, उसी तरह उतना ही अहम है। क्योंकि अगर आप किसी हिंदी जानकार लड़की से इश्क कर लें, या हिंदी कार जानकार लड़के से इश्क पड़ जाए, या फॉरेन में, अब्रॉड में, या यहाँ पर हिंदुस्तान में जहाँ 24 ज़बानें हैं, वहाँ हिंदी की ज़रूरत पड़ सकती है। तो मकसद ये है कि मैं, जहाँ अंग्रेजी हमारे यहाँ एक लिंक लैंग्वेज है बनी हुई, मैं चाहता हूँ कि किसी तरह हिंदुस्तानी ज़बान, जिसमें हिंदी और उर्दू का इम्तिजाज है, इन दोनों की मिलावट है बड़ी खूबसूरत, अगर किसी तरह ये हमारे यहाँ लिंक लैंग्वेज बनती जाए, जिसमें सबसे बड़ा कंट्रीब्यूशन हिंदी सिनेमा का है। हम कहीं भी जाएं तो टूटी फूटी अंग्रेजी अगर नहीं समझ आती किसी को, तो वो टूटी फूटी हिंदी जरूर समझ लेता है या समझा देता है हमको, और उसमें हिंदी फिल्मों का बहुत बड़ा योगदान है। हिंदी फिल्मों ने बहुत बड़ा काम किया। तो मैं चाहता था कि उस तरह की हिंदुस्तानी ज़बान को किसी तरह लिंक लैंग्वेज बनाया जाए। मैंने टैगोर ट्रांसलेट किया है, और टैगोर की ख़ास तौर पे उनकी जवानी की कविताएं, क्योंकि टैगोर को सब समझते हैं वो दाढ़ी समेत पैदा हुआ, वैसा है नहीं। और उनकी बच्चों की कविताएं ख़ास तौर पे, मैं कपिश हैं यहाँ पर आए हुए, वो पब्लिश करने वाले हैं रूपा से उस किताब को, वो ट्रांसलेट किया है। उसके अलावा हार्पर कॉलिंस के लिए हिंदुस्तान की 24 ज़बानों में से एक एक शायर को लेकर 365 नज़मों का अनुवाद कर रहा हूं, जिसमें से काफ़ी कर चुका हूं, मुझे साल भर और लगेगा वो सारा करने का। और वो आज की शायरी ये बताने के लिए कि आज की शायरी सिर्फ टेक्स्ट बुक के लिए नहीं है, हमारी ज़बानों की जो शायरी है, हमारी सारी ही नेशनल लैंग्वेजेस हैं, इनकी शायरी सिर्फ ये नहीं है कि आपने टेक्स्ट बुक में टैगोर को पढ़ा दिया या गालिब को पढ़ा दिया और या भारती को पढ़ा दिया। मैं उन सब मास्टर्स को छोड़कर आज की शायरी जो रेलेवेंट है, जिसका मकसद है, जो बात करती है, जो आज के हालात की बात करती है, उसमें वो मेरा ख्याल है अगले साल तक वो किताब मैं आप पेश कर सकूंगा। तो जो आप जिस तर्जुमे और अनुवाद की आप बात कर रहे हैं वो मैंने वहां से शुरू किया था, लेकिन वो अब भी जारी है और मैं अब भी कर रहा हूं। मेरा ख्याल है ये कहानी आप तक पहुंचती रहेंगी, ये किताबें।
Any other question? We have something like 5 minutes, not more than that.
सबसे पहले तो नमस्कार सभी डायस पे बैठे महारथियों को, लेकिन मेरा क्वेश्चन स्पेशली गुलजार साहब के लिए है।
इरशाद।
सर, मैं आपको फिल्म उद्योग से जुड़े हुए सक्सेसेस, कमर्शियल सक्सेसेस के साथ वाकिफ़ थी अभी तक। आज और कुछ दिनों से पहले से जब पता लगा आप बैंगलोर आ रहे हैं, तो आपका जो लिटरेरी और what should I say, your personal conviction towards understanding of words and putting them into relevant to today's generation is something that I have again started admiring. मेरा question ये है कि आप इस balance को कैसे manage करते हैं? आप जो frankly हम में से बहुत सारे लोग यहाँ शायद IT
नहीं, वो तो acrobatic थोड़े से सीखे हुए हैं ना, वो नटों की तरह मैं वो रस्सी पे चलने का बहुत रियाज किया, प्रैक्टिस की है। एक सवाल का ख्याल आ गया जो सच्चिदानंद जी ने पूछा था कि शायरी का मादरी ज़बान में और अंग्रेज़ी में, मुझे वाकई आपने तो ऐसे मुहावरन कह दिया, मेरी वाकई अंग्रेज़ी ख़राब है, मेरी अच्छी अंग्रेज़ी नहीं है, दूसरों ने ट्रांसलेशंस किए हैं, उनके तर्जमे किए हैं, लेकिन आपकी शायरी में जो आपने ओरिजिनल अंग्रेज़ी लिखी है, जो मैं सच्चिदानंद जी का जिक्र कर रहा हूँ, जो आपने ओरिजिनल अंग्रेजी में लिखी हैं कविताएं, मैंने वो भी पढ़ी हैं, मुझे वो अंग्रेजी नहीं लगती, वो फिर भी मलयालम लगती है, क्योंकि उसमें वो पूरा कल्चर झलकता है, वो सारी रवायत झलकती है उसमें। तो वो ये ज़रूर है कि आपने अंग्रेजी में कह ली, लेकिन वो कविताएं फिर भी मलयालम की और वहीं की लगती हैं, केरला की लगती हैं, केरला का कल्चर पूरा का पूरा नजर आता है। सुक्रीता पॉल की नज़में जो मैंने तर्जुमा किया है, उनमें वो अंग्रेजी में लिखती थी, लेकिन वो लगता था वो ठेठ पंजाब की नज़में हैं, वो हिंदुस्तानी नज़में हैं और पंजाब की हैं, तो इसलिए वो उसका नाम भी उन्होंने पोएम्स कम होम इसीलिए दिया। मैंने मराठी की जो नज़में जिनका तर्जुमा किया, कुसुमाग्रज का किया, वृंदा जी का किया, वृंदा कारंदीकर जी का, उनका तर्जुमा किया है, वो भी कविताएं आप तक पहुंची हैं, बहुत सी पहुंची हैं, बहुत सी और आएंगी। उनमें उन्होंने भी जहाँ जहाँ अंग्रेजी में खुद लिखा है, वहाँ भी वो मराठी ही सुनाई देती है। अगर उसकी भावना को देखें आप उस कविता को, तो वो अंग्रेजी नहीं लगती। अंग्रेजी सीखिए, अंग्रेजी में लिखिए, यस, लेकिन अंग्रेजी में शायद आप उस तरह से ना कह सकें जिस तरह आप अपनी मादरी ज़बान का एहसास पहुँचा पाते हैं, वो ज़रूरी है। और ये जो आपने कहा कि बैलेंस कहाँ से करता हूँ, पता नहीं मैं करता भी हूँ कि नहीं, लेकिन ये कि नटी के रस्सी पे चलने की का रियाज है।
Thank you. Let me just clarify that I don't write in English. I don't write poetry in English. They are all translations of my poems in Malayalam, by the way. Is there any question? You have
yes.
another 5 minutes.
Now, I have got one question. That is, many times we are referring to mother tongue. Actually, the people who have grown in today's India, especially as referred to the urban culture, their mother tongue is English, because whatever reasons, as Mrs. Devshen has told, economic reason, they were forced to study in English medium from the beginning. So they start arguing in English, they start thinking in English, and of course, start dreaming in English. So, is it not time that we accept English as an Indian language, as part of the any other language? We, in my opinion, we should accept and we should not be afraid. That is my submission.
I thought we were saying this exactly for the past 45 minutes.
No, still not. But another thing is that Mrs. Devshan's worry is also true, that there is a growing tendency to promote English in the other languages. Hindi has his own because of his economic status. But what is to be done for the other regional languages? Is there any thought or on the other levels? Means, what is the marketing or what is the sort of this one is required for the other regional languages? Hindi is there because of Bollywood's presence, as Guljar Sahab has correctly told.
I don't know. It will take a long answer, but briefly it can be said, languages are made by societies and languages are preserved by societies. So, if a society wants its language to survive, it will be mindful. If it does not want and wants to adopt some other language, the language will die. Languages also die. But let us also remember, imperialism destroyed, replaced languages, original languages of Latin America, original languages of Africa. The subcontinent where it could not succeed was India, where Indian languages, in spite of the British Empire, survived and thrived. And some of the best writing during the last 150 years took place at that time. So we have to, her worry is fine. My hope is also genuine.
I am always a very positive person. I'm not for 1 minute saying that we are all going to die. It's not that. Because good literature, we know that, does not die. But it's also true that the interest in mother tongue literature is going away. Because if you write in English, then you are read by 21 times more. Your readership increases 21 times more. And that is something different. Then you get to be known all over India and outside too. That is something that you want. Why should you not want it? But it's also true, as Guljar Sahab said, it's an urban phenomenon, it's an urban problem. It's not a rural problem. And in the rural readership, you have the mother tongues because they do not have access to English literature. Really, they don't. That is why, moment they come to the city, moment they get the access, they move away. So there's no point in being very happy with ourselves and imagining that things will be okay and they are okay. They are not. And we have to do something positive about getting very good translations done in all the Indian languages into English and making it available and accessible. Because all the stuff that we're doing, I'm not for a moment saying that English is not an Indian language. It is an Indian language. But we should own it in the mother tongue languages too. How do you own English? How does Malayalam, Hindi, Punjabi, Bangla own English? By translation. You can own the language if you have good translations of your own best literature into that language. That's one way, and that it has to be done. Because that's what I feel, having taught comparative literature for ages. This is what I felt, that we know all about, our children know a lot more about European literature, not about Indian literature. Why? Because India, you see, I think 1999 in London, I inaugurated Arundhati Ray's book, God of Small Things, in the Nehru Center. And when we were having tea, I asked, have you given translation? In how many languages if the translation come out? Arundhati said, I have not given any, allowed any language translation except in Malayalam, because that I can read and check. But I said, how about European languages? I've allowed them because they are good translators. It is proved that they have reached a level where they are honest and good and perfect professional. So I have given permission for the European languages, not for the Indian languages, because the translation, level of translation is not professional. I was a little hard at that time. But then, when I thought about it, I thought she was right. Absolutely right.
Thank you, Navneeta. And let me thank all the panelists and thank all of you. I just remembered Anantamurthy once saying that the illiterate people of the village are going to preserve our mother tongues. Thank you.